Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive.
Always a pleasure.
This time, we're diving headfirst into Matchday 16 of the Premier League.
Oh,
And let me tell you, this weekend was a roller coaster, wasn't it?
absolutely.
We had those shock results, some real moments of magic, and enough twists and turns to keep us guessing right to the final whistle.
It's amazing how a single match day can just flip the whole script on the season.
Right.
We saw some unexpected heroes step up, a few of those giants stumble, and those goals, some of them will be talked about for years.
Yeah, you're right about those goals.
hmm
And speaking of unexpected heroes, we got to talk about the Manchester Derby. Did anyone see that coming? Manchester United just outclassing Manchester City? I know I didn't.
I think, honestly, what caught everyone off guard was Manchester United's tactics.
Hmm.
They completely shut down City's game plan, pressing high, forcing those errors, and City just couldn't recover.
I think you're right. They definitely took advantage of City's weakness in those wide areas, especially with Walker out injured. But let's be real. The game changer, the moment everyone's talking about, was that Amad Diallo goal. Absolutely stunning.
Diallo's goal, it wasn't just beautiful to watch, it was tactical genius, the way he just sliced through those defenders and then curled it right into the top corner.
Poetry in motion.
Oh yeah, that's a goal you'll see coaches breaking down for years to come.
And for Manchester United, that win was huge, right? It's like a shot of adrenaline right into their season. Puts them right back in that fight for a Champions League spot. And of course, bragging rights in Manchester. You can't forget those.
Absolutely, but on the other side, this loss for City raises some real questions about their title defense. They haven't looked convincing, and now the pressure's really on.
It's getting interesting, that's for sure. All right, let's jump from one surprise to another. Nottingham Forest. They're sitting pretty in the top four after that incredible comeback against Aston Villa. Did anyone have them as Champions League contenders at the start of the season? I sure didn't.
I think what's impressive about Forest is they're not just grinding out results, they're playing this really attractive, attacking style of football. Their managers instilled a real belief in that squad, and they're not afraid to take risks.
Yeah, I think it shows how much more competitive the Premier League's become. You have teams like Forest shaking up the old guard, making things more unpredictable, and let's be honest, more fun to watch.
Couldn't agree more. The gap's closing between the so-called Big Six and the rest of the league, and it means every single match counts.
It's true. Every point matters. Speaking of tight races, we got to talk about the battle at the top. Liverpool, they got a draw against Fulham, but it felt more like a loss, right? Considering they played with 10 men for most of the match.
It really did. It was a gutsy performance, showed that champion spirit, but dropping 2 points like that, it hurts. That red card for Robertson really threw them off, and you have to give Fulham credit. They seized that advantage.
Yeah, but you know what did impress me? Diogo Jota's late equalizer. Classic poacher's goal. That guy is a real asset for Liverpool.
He really is. His finishing's clinical, and it's a big reason they're still in the title hunt. But they got to be more disciplined if they want to stay ahead, especially with all these other teams right on their heels.
Speaking of contenders, Arsenal had a rough day at the office. Drawing against Everton, despite having most of the possession, they just couldn't buy a goal.
It was a classic example of possession not always winning the game. They lack that killer instinct in the final third, that ruthlessness you need to be champions.
They're still a young team, though. A lot of potential there. I wouldn't count them out just yet.
True, but this draw, it gives those other teams a chance to catch up. The title race is tighter than ever. Every drop point could be decisive come May.
You said it. Okay, on a more positive note. Tottenham Hotspur. They put on a show against Southampton, winning 5-0. A statement win if there ever was one.
They were unstoppable in attack, playing with pace, precision, hungry for goals. It was a joy to watch.
Seems like they've really found their rhythm under the new manager, and now they're looking like genuine contenders for the title.
Yeah, that result should have the other top teams a little worried. Tottenham are looking dangerous.
Absolutely. Now, not every team is riding high right now. Wolves, they're in a tough spot after their loss to Ipswich Town, looking more and more like relegation candidates.
That Ipswich defeat was a real blow, highlighted their lack of attacking threat and their defensive vulnerabilities. They're in a real fight now. Be interesting to see how they respond.
Still early in the season, but they got to turn things around fast if they want to climb out of that relegation zone. Every point is crucial at this stage.
You're not kidding. The pressure is just going to keep building with each passing week. They need a solution, and they need it fast.
You know, Matchday 16, it was a perfect snapshot of what makes the Premier League so great. The drama, the passion, the unpredictability, it had it all. And it leaves us with so many questions. Who's going to rise to the challenge? Who's going to crumble under pressure? And who's going to lift that Premier League trophy at the end of it all?
So many questions, and only time will tell. It's fascinating, isn't it? Seeing these teams like Nottingham Forest and Newcastle really shaking things up.
It's like they're not afraid of anything.
Mm.
Just going out there and proving that the old guard, the big six, that they're not invincible.
Yeah, there's this new fearlessness. They're not just content to be there, they're hungry to prove themselves, and it makes for some incredible football.
And the fans are loving it, right? It's not just about who wins or loses. It's about seeing these teams with their new energy and their belief really pushing the boundaries.
It injects a level of unpredictability that's just so exciting. You never know who's going to win on any given day, and that makes every match that much more compelling.
And it's not just happening at the top of the table either. Look at the relegation battle. Just as intense, just as crucial.
Right. No team can afford to relax, whether they're aiming for the title or fighting to stay up. Every point matters. The margins are so tight.
Speaking of fighting to stay up, Wolves, after that loss to Ipswich, they're in a tough spot. What do they need to do? Is it a personnel issue, or is it more about tactics?
I think it's a bit of both, to be honest. They need to find a way to score more goals, that's obvious, and they need to tighten up at the back. But sometimes it's more about mentality.
You mean finding that fighting spirit again?
Exactly. Believing they can get out of this hole. And with January right around the corner, you know what that means. Transfer season.
Ah, yes. The transfer window. Always a bit of a frenzy. Do you think Wolves will be busy looking for reinforcements?
I think they have to be. They need fresh blood, players who can come in and make an immediate impact. Whether it's a striker who can score goals or a solid defender, they need to make some smart moves.
The transfer window is always fascinating, isn't it? It's like a game of chess. All these clubs trying to outmaneuver each other to get the players they need.
High stakes, for sure. A good transfer window can make or break a season. And with so many teams in tight races, both at the top and the bottom, it's going to be a wild ride in January.
But the Premier League, it's not all about transfers and league tables, is it? There's always something new happening, new tactical trends, young players bursting onto the scene.
You're absolutely right. We're seeing more and more emphasis on pressing, teams trying to win the ball back as quickly as possible. And there's this whole new generation of players, technically gifted, tactically aware. They're changing the game.
Like Amad Diallo, right? With that incredible goal in the Manchester derby. The kind of player who can single-handedly change the course of a match.
Exactly. These young players, they're fearless, they're creative, they're hungry to make their mark, and they're pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
And it's what makes the Premier League so captivating, right? Yeah. It never stands still. Always evolving, always pushing forward.
A global spectacle. It's a cultural phenomenon. It's a sporting roller coaster. And we're right in the middle of it all.
And Matchday 16 was a perfect example of that, wasn't it? We saw the highs and lows, the moments of brilliance, the tactical masterclasses, all in one weekend.
Absolutely. And as we head into the festive period with all those matches coming thick and fast, you know the Premier League's going to deliver even more drama and excitement.
Before we get into some predictions, let's just take a moment to recap some of the key takeaways from this match day. First of all, I think it's clear that the balance of power in the Premier League is shifting. The old order is being challenged, and the title race is wide open.
Yeah, and we've seen how important tactical flexibility is and the impact that a single moment of brilliance can have. The margins are so small, and every decision on and off the pitch can have huge consequences.
And as always, the Premier League is a story that's constantly being written. New heroes emerge, old rivalries are reignited, and the drama just keeps unfolding. So, we've talked about the big surprises, the standout performances, but the season is far from over. What should we be looking out for as we head into the new year? Any bold predictions?
Well, the title race is shaping up to be a real nail-biter, that's for sure. You've got Liverpool showing that champions mentality even when they're up against it. Tottenham, they're playing with so much confidence, scoring goals for fun. And don't forget about Chelsea, quietly picking up points. They could be a real threat.
And what about Manchester United? Can they keep that momentum going after that derby win and make a real push for a top four finish?
That derby win was huge for their confidence, no doubt. If they can find some consistency, especially away from home, they've got a chance. But it's a big if.
It is. And those surprise packages, Forest, Newcastle, can they keep exceeding expectations?
The second half of the season is a different animal. You know, teams have had time to figure them out. The pressure ramps up. It's a real test.
Yeah, it's one thing to start strong. It's another to maintain it. Speaking of teams facing a test, Wolves, just a few weeks ago we were talking about them as potential European contenders. Now they're battling relegation. Can they turn it around?
It's going to be tough, no question. They need something to spark them. A new signing, a change in tactics, something. But the clock's ticking.
It is. Every match from here on out is crucial. The stakes are high, the pressure's immense, but that's what makes the Premier League so great.
Absolutely. Every game is like a cup final. You just never know what's going to happen.
All right, before we wrap things up, I got to ask, who do you think will be lifting the Premier League trophy at the end of the season?
You know, it's impossible to say right now. There are 5, maybe 6 teams that could realistically win it. And that's what makes this league so special, the unpredictability, the drama.
It's been an incredible season so far, and it feels like we're just getting started. This Matchday 16, it was a reminder that anything can happen in the Premier League. Fortunes can change in an instant. The drama never stops.
We've seen it all. Tactical battles, moments of individual brilliance, and storylines that will keep unfolding.
So, if you're a fan of the beautiful game, you're in for a treat. The Premier League is only going to get more intense, more exciting, and more unpredictable as we head towards the finish line.
It's the best league in the world for a reason.
It really is. That's all the time we have for this deep dive, but we'll be back soon to break down all the latest action.
Until then, enjoy the beautiful game.